Podcasts are hot right now. How do I know? Well, you're listening to one right now, aren't you? But you might be wondering, how on earth do I get my voice out there and start my own podcast? It all seems so intimidating. Between hosting and platforms and monetization, it can get real complicated real quick. Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We started this podcast over 2 years ago, not knowing clue one on how to do it. So how do we do it? We did it with Anchor. Anchor is the free podcast app with creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on all the platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And everybody likes money, right? Well, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So go right now, download the free Anchor app, or go to Anchor FM to get started. It's the eCommerce Minute, your daily dose of e-commerce, tech, and retail news with your hosts, Bart, Mroz, and John Suder. The eCommerce Minute is a production of SUMO Heavy, a digital commerce consulting firm in Brooklyn, New York, and Philadelphia. Find us on the web at sumoheavy.com. It's eCommerce Minute episode 627.
In today's episode, NRF 2020 Vision Recap.
The world's largest gathering for the retail trade industry, NRF 2020 Vision Retail's Big Show, took place January 12th to 14th, 2020 at the Javits Convention Center in New York. And we're here to give you a bite-sized recap. This year, the event saw roughly 40,000 people from 99 countries attending the first day of the big show. The theme for this year's event was 2020 Vision, and executives from the likes of Microsoft, Macy's, Kohl's, L'Oreal, and Crate & Barrel, as well as numerous up-and-coming brands, took to the stage to share their thoughts on the future of retail. The event kicked off highlighting Showfields, a new department store in New York City that has been called, quote, the most interesting store in the world, end quote, for its innovative retail as a platform concept. In the same breath, they talked about a Las Vegas department store called Area 15. So what do these two stores have in common? In addition to showcasing dozens of brands in their stores, they also feature art exhibits, theatrical events, and interactive experiences which are constantly refreshed and all open to the public. The point here being that in a world run by Amazon, physical retail will thrive if it becomes fully experiential. On the second day of the event, Starbucks CEO Kevin Johnson made a case for combining digital innovation and real-world human connection in his keynote presentation. One way this is happening at Starbucks is with Deep Brew, which is an internal program that uses artificial intelligence to automate tasks like counting inventory and ordering new stock. This advancement will enable employees to spend more time interacting with customers, making the transaction more personal and authentic. This was followed by an interesting panel on customer service featuring some insight on how Chloe, Zappos, and Gap put their customers first. Alex Giovannos, Chloe's brand president for North and South America, said the luxury retailer benefits from a significant amount of brand equity. This means that their customers, whom they affectionately refer to as clients, are already heavily invested in the experience when they walk into the store. The only way to surpass their expectations, she said, is to be obsessed with clients in reverse. At Gap, Heidi Eisern led a cross-functional team focusing on using technology to improve the customer experience. She says it's important to test and learn from new ideas as early as possible to ensure they are having the intended effect. Meanwhile, Alex Janoff, manager of research and user experience at Zappos, said their customer service teams were run by, quote, objectively happy people. That's me. Finally, on day 3, Target, Chipotle, and Best Buy discussed the power of joint intelligence to fight cyber threats. Data security in the digital age has been a contentious topic over the past few years, but this panel, led by Rich Augustino, Senior Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer at Target, paints a darker picture. These hackers are dead serious. He said, quote, they're an organization, a dozen or so people, maybe as many as 50 or 60. They have deep technical skills, so they can build a lot of their own tools, and they have access to a vast marketplace on the dark web where they can purchase just about anything they can't build themselves, end quote. Well, so what should the industry do? Collaborate. Augustino said, quote, there are organizations, but a lot of it is very informal, end quote. Best Buy's Anna Mishler said, we talk to our peers about what we're doing, what we're seeing, what the threats are, and what works and what doesn't. Another thing the industry should do is focus on recruiting talent. Cybersecurity is relatively a new job. Since about 20 years ago, it didn't exist, and at the moment, there are hundreds of thousands of open jobs in retail information security. Fresh faces in cybersecurity bring in expertise that seasoned vets don't have. This is just the tip of the iceberg compared to the amount of information shared at this year's NRF event, and we'll see if 2020 proves these pros right. There's some additional information on the NRF website. There's a bunch of articles, day-by-day recaps, which you can find at nrfbigshow.nrf.com. /2020-articles.
And that's your episode for today.
And that's our episode for today. We'll post that in the show notes, which you can find wherever you listen to your podcast. So,
I mean, big stores have to do something, right? So they're trying to pull stuff off. I mean, NRF is huge, but also like I feel like it's big for New York, and it's always the one that starts out the year for e-commerce things. And then there's CES, obviously, but that's a different world in itself. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about these big shows anymore, John.
Yeah, you and I have had many conversations about this, about not only what is the ROI on a big trade show for, let's just say, a consulting company such as ours.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just pretend another good example we had was the Shopify. What is the Shopify Unite?
Yeah.
That's also what you're saying. That's multiples of thousands of dollars to attend. I mean, is it?
No, Shop Talk is. Shopify is really small. It's actually under $1,000, but
it's under
very,
1,000. Okay.
Yeah, but what I love about Shopify's sort of conference, it's only for partners or people who are interested.
Right.
So
no
retailers.
So people can't just wander in.
No. It's not wander in. It's more of there's no retailers there. Which changes the whole perspective of it. You're not there to like try to sell. You're trying to have the info, and then they're starting to get retailers in, but it's a little different. In the beginning, it was really just about the partners.
Right. And let's go back to the Shop Talk example, which is the other end of the spectrum, which is many thousands of dollars, and that does not include your room, but it does include, they have some pretty good food there, I will admit. But it's pretty insane. And given the way the world is moving, it's like you see these big trade shows and a lot of the big companies don't even bother showing up. Like CES, you don't see Apple or Microsoft anymore. I read something, I think I told you the other day, Bart, that one of the big auto shows, like Audi's not going to bother showing up.
Yeah.
Like people would rather just hold their own little Apple style events and say, here's my announcement. I'm not going to make my announcement at a big trade show and get lost in the noise.
Right. It's just, it's noisy. It's big. It's, it also caters to people who have money. Like, we're a small consulting firm. We do okay. We do pretty well. I mean, we take care of our people, but I don't see me spending $5,000 for a ticket and then flying there and spending 3 days, outside of it and trying to get it. And I get it. Yeah. Getting a client from it covers it. But does it really cover it?
Does it really? Right, exactly.
Well, but does it really cover it, right? Okay, so it covers that, but then you have to, do the work. And I don't know. I always had this, like, every year I keep on saying it's just getting bigger and more expensive and more expensive. And I get it. They're a company, they're making money off of it. But there's a point where you're like, well, this is now silly. Yep. And like how much actually business you're doing. Like, sure, if your clients are there, yeah, you want to meet them. But you know what I'd rather do? I'd rather fly to my client to their place, have dinner, relax dinner, and not be on. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I've had this, and we've had this conversation over and over. And I think this is the year that we're just like really like pushing into smaller things because it makes more sense.
Totally agree. If you are a consulting firm or someone who is listening to this, maybe someone who's a mid-level person in e-commerce, what would you recommend instead of like a larger trade show? Like what are the mid-tier shows that you would recommend for people to attend?
I mean, so I'm going to go backwards a little bit, right? You get the biggies, right? NRF, Shop Talk, and IRC. They're the biggies, right? Then you got the e-tail and the small ones, but they're kind of, the money's getting sucked up by these big ginormous things. So I think doing some local stuff, there's Retail Summit, there's, some platform stuff. The problem with like Magento, that's sucked up into Adobe Summit now. So that's a bigger thing. So do you just go for that? There's all those.
Let's pause on that for a second. So the big Adobe show, there's two of them, and I always get them confused. One is a design focused one, and the other one is just the now I guess it's just the whatever else.
The Adobe Summit, which is everything.
Summit.
Right?
Okay, so Summit is everything. Summit has absorbed Magento. What was the Magento conference called?
Imagine. So there's an extra day of it. Marketo is part of it now. I mean, Adobe is a big, huge company now. They're a content company, they're an e-commerce company. Like, there's all that stuff. So they got to do the kit and caboodle stuff.
Yeah. So what had happened was, I guess you would have a great example was some of our developers from Poland used to fly out from Magento, imagine, because it was a different animal back then. But now that it's a whole Adobe thing, what's apples to oranges, the price difference on the ticket?
It's a lot bigger. And I think the only thing I think is you can just go to Imagine, which is an extra day basically at Adobe. But like, if you're there, I don't know. I'm just kind of, I think, and maybe just because it's me and how I deal with it and how we do conferences, is that it's too big. It's too hectic. I don't know if we really get anything out of it. Yes, catching up with people I know in one spot is great, but I can do that otherwise. But
that's great, but it's at what expense? And that's a literal what expense. I mean,
right. I mean, we have some plans for the year, and we'll reveal them as they come up. But I think our thinking this year is so much different.
Yeah. So I think that's what Bart's alluding to. I mean, what I was trying to say was like, while it's great to like meet your peers and like you can all say, oh, here we are all out in Las Vegas. But at the end of the day, if you're not bringing home either some signed business or promises of some business, that's a very expensive dinner and drinks with your friends, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and sorry guys, we just went on a tirade about conferences, but we've been talking of that for months and months and months now, and it's just, it comes up.
I think it's what a lot of people are thinking about, especially this time of year. Like, what do you do with the rest of your expenditures for advertising? How many people are saying top of mind, oh, I've got to spend $10,000 on a booth? No, I probably not. I just think a lot of these big shows are going to contract even more.
And Shop Talk just got last year got sold.
Right.
So, from what I heard is that they're going to do some regional events a lot more.
Wasn't that the plan? Didn't we hear that last year where they were going to be like a hyper regional kind of thing as opposed to, the giant beast of Shop Talk Vegas?
Supposedly,
which I think would make a lot more sense. And again, it would attract more. You'd probably get more activity, more users, more attendees, whatever the word you want to use, more awareness of the Shop Talk brand.
Because I think out of e-commerce world, I mean, what 5% of that come retailers,
right? If
that, considering there's so many of them, like I think that's it prices out a lot of people, even though retailers get a discount. Your price is still pricing them out.
Yeah, that's a hard purchase order to write when you say, boss, can I go to Shop Talk for 3 days? And can I bring my assistant? And can I stay at the MGM? It's like, nope. Nope. All right. So if you'd like more information about the NRF show, as I said, nrfbigshow.nrf.com. You can look it up. There's a bunch of articles, videos, things like that. A bunch of recaps about what happened at the show. And if you'd like an updated list of what events are happening in your area, subscribe to the SUMO Heavy newsletter each week. Every Friday at 8 a.m., we drop our fresh, hot newsletter right into your email inbox. And at the bottom there's usually a listing of the next couple events that are happening across the country. We don't have any stat time today, so you guys got anything else?
Nope.
All right, that's your e-commerce minute for today. We'll see you on the internet tomorrow. That's it for today's show. If you like the show, do us a favor and subscribe or leave us a review on iTunes. And don't forget, you can now listen to the e-commerce minute on your Amazon device. Just add e-commerce minute to your flash briefing. And finally, if you have a comment or suggestion or just want to say hi, find us on social media at SUMO Heavy.